In this video, I'm going to talk about just how to add and remove things from pandas data frames. So, just how to add and remove columns and rows, basically. Right, so let's read in this CSV file and have a little look at what kind of variable we get. So here's our little data frame, just to refresh you. We've got age, name, sex, and score, right? So let's say that we want to add a new column, right? Well, we can actually easily do that. All we have to do is use the data frame itself and just add a little a new column in brackets, right? So we could have a column, we'll just call it new col, right? But we need it to be equal to something. And what do we want it to be equal to? Well, I don't know, but we're going to need at least one value or a set of values because this new column is going to be as long as this. Doesn't matter if all the values are null, but we're going to need some values, right? So we'll probably need 19 values, one for every single index item that we've got, right? I'm going to comment this out because this isn't actually the making of a new column. But what we want to do is we want to make a variable with 19 items in it that we can put in this new column, right? So we could put, for example, I don't know, we could probably add two columns together. So we could probably add the name and the sex columns together and, get Malik M as, its own value, Asif M as its own value, Yusuf M as its own value, Afsana F as its own value, etc., etc. And we could put that in the new col, right? So how do we do that? Let's make a variable called new col vals. And we'll say that it's equal to our data frame column. Which column was it again? Name, right? Plus, we want a space, and then we want to get our data frame column sex, right? And what this will actually do is it will get every single name and the sex for associated with that name on that row, and it will concatenate these two strings because they are both strings. It will add a space in between them, so we'll get Malik space M for the first value in this variable, Asif space M, Yusuf space M, etc., etc. Right? Now, before I run that, we're just going to print it out. So we'll say new col vals, we'll print it out as well after running it. And you can see we've got all of these different values here. And now we can make the new column, which we'll call new col. New col equal to new col vals, right? When we run this, we'll get a new column, which we can get by looking at the data frame itself. And you can see we've got this new column, and you can see it's a concatenation of both of these, the strings of both of these columns with a space in between each of the two items, right? We could have also made, I don't know, another column with just a bunch of values. So we'll call it vals. We'll make a thing called vals, and we'll just add 0 to 18, shall we? So we'll say, we'll just add random numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Right, and we could say scdf rand vals is equal to vals. Actually show that data frame. I'll just space that there. And if I put that up, we can now see we've got these two new columns. We've got new column, we've got rand vals that we got from the vals list. Now, this rand vals column, I don't think we're ever going to need it, and we might confuse it with this score column, right? So we probably, to be honest, want to delete this rand vals column. So we can easily do that. We actually get our data frame name, and then we use the drop function on the data frame, and we say as an argument that we want to drop some columns, and the columns we want to drop are just rand vals, right? That's it, rand vals. Okay. And if you look at that, you can see that we've dropped that column. However, what's going to happen when we look at our data frame? Just got to confirm it. Now the problem is, when we look at our data frame here, after using the drop function, we can actually see that rand vals is still there. So what this drop function actually does is it just gets rid of that, or it returns a new data frame without whatever you've dropped, right? But it doesn't actually change the original data frame unless you specify another argument. And that argument is, so we've got our columns, which we're going to say rand vals. So we're going to say, yeah, we're going to say rand vals. And we're going to put another argument called in place equals true. And what this does is it means that it'll delete it permanently from this data frame rather than just sending you a data frame of the old data frame without the column, if that makes sense. Right, so we're going to have a look at that. And then now, when we look at our old data frame, you'll see that we don't have that. Okay. Right, I'm going to add it back to the data frame, so I'm going to copy and paste this rand vals thing. I don't actually need to copy and paste that variable, but I'm going to because I want to show you something else. So you can see that this is actually a list, and what we can actually do is get rid of more than one column at a time, so we can get rid of multiple. And we probably don't need, to be honest, the new column or the rand vals column, so we're going to get rid of both. We're going to say that we want to get rid of the new col and that we want to get rid of rand vals, right? And we're going to say that in place is equal to true because we want to permanently alter this data frame. Yeah. When we run that, we just get that. We don't actually get a proper output. And we're going to have a little look at the data frame, and it should be how it was before we did all of that, before we messed around with all of that. And you can see that it's returned to normal, to how it was when we first looked at the we didn't actually look at it, but it's how it should be. It's how it was when we started, right? Because we've dropped both of those columns. Okay. Now you're probably wondering, okay, that's really cool. I now know how to change columns, and I now know how to add and remove columns, should I say, but I don't know how to add and remove rows, right? It's not very difficult to add and remove rows at all. So let's get on to doing that, shall we? So in order to add a row, we just put df our data frame name dot append, right? And then what we do is we put in a dictionary whatever column names that we need to, add values to. So it would be all four of them, but let's just do two of them for now. So let's say name for now, and we'll call this person Billy J. Probably want a capital J. And then we're going to add a score as well for Billy J. Score, we'll add a score of 9. Billy J is a very, very smart person, right? We also have to put ignore index as an argument and put that as true. Otherwise, this simply cannot be appended, right? Now, what's going to happen when I append this? You want to guess? Let's see. Let's run both the append function and the actual data frame itself and see what we actually get. So when I use the append itself, you can't see the output. So I'm just going to use the append. So I'm going to run append. When I run append, you can actually see that we've added Billy J. There's the name. Billy J doesn't have a sex and doesn't have a age, but does have a score, right? So as you can see, we can actually add, you know, however many, add a row with however many of the columns data's filled out. We actually didn't have to add the age or add the sex, but if there is no value, pandas defaults to a value called NaN, which means not a number, i.e. there isn't a value kind of thing. However, when we actually append this, or we use this append function, we don't actually add it to the data frame. What happens is Python just returns a data frame with this added to it, but that doesn't change the original data frame. If I actually run this scdf, you can see that it hasn't been changed. So what we actually have to do in order to make this append permanent is say scdf is equal to, and it wants to be equal to this append statement. When we run this, we'll get nothing back, but if we look at our actual data frame, you'll see that it's now been appended to that data frame, right? And now you can see Billy J and the value 9, right? Now, we might think to ourselves, that's really cool that we've done that. But to be honest, we don't want this this new value, right? So we can actually drop this from there, and we can say scdf dot drop, and we're going to drop index equals 19. We say in place is equal to true, because we want it to be permanently dropped, right? And what this is going to do, it's going to find the item at index 19, which, as you can see, is this row that we've added, and it's going to permanently get rid of it, hopefully. So let's run that first and see what happens. Make sure we don't get any errors. So that seems to have worked. And then when I actually run this, you can see that it no longer contains that added row. That's basically it for adding and removal. There's probably more that you can find out, but that's the basics of it. I'll probably go over editing stuff in a later video. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching.